So we're just going to play a little bit of music just to settle us down and get into a nice meditative state, just a reflection on being here just now. So just get us into the mood for the start of today, and today is all about movement for mental health. So before we properly start, would somebody like to light the chalice?
It says, not doing anything, turn volume up. It just says it on the, that's it. So.
Well spotted, thank you very much. So we each find our way to be mindful through life, finding what works for us and what doesn't. And our state of awareness is determined by many things. Today we explore movement, mental well-being. We open ourselves to the collective connection of our fellowship. May this time together find the connection of inner well-being as we explore the theme, and bring us a step closer to the unity we share together and for humanity. I invite you all now to come and worship. So yesterday we had an interfaith mindfulness day, which really celebrates a week of mental health awareness. So yesterday we had an event at the Verapanya Meditation Center where we had the theme of movement for mental health. It was a wonderful day. We had sun. Many other parts of of Scotland didn't have sun, but we did, which was very nice and very appreciative. And we discussed many things about movement and how our mental health is affected by it. One woman discussed how she had a problem with her heart, and she was unable to move because she had a stroke. And she was in a wheelchair, but through movement, through the prescribed by the physiotherapist, she went from the wheelchair to a Zimmer frame, and from the Zimmer frame she went to a walking stick, and then from the walking stick she was able to walk again. Now, that plays a big weight on the mind, being confined to the house or confined to a place or waiting for somebody else to really help them get to places or just to generally live. And so being able to move freely helped her feel better about herself and about life. So it's very important that we have the mental attitude, and to help that it's good to move and be mobile get to places and be freely available to do what we want to do without being confined in any way. So you'll find movement in many different faith paths, such as yoga and mudras, where you move the hands. I don't know if you know mudras at all. Quite often there's prostrating yourself. This could be done as part of a pilgrimage, or it can be done just in prayer. But you see movement as a connection to the mental state and mental well-being. And of course we have Tai Chi. So yesterday I did a 10-minute session on Tai Chi. We're not going to do that today, so you're fine. You can stay seated, so that's okay. Yeah. But these are just a few things that we find for movement in different faith paths, which is a benefit for our mindful well-being. And the monk yesterday, he reminded us of what the Buddha said one day. There may be a few people who do not suffer physically, but everyone suffers mentally. Which, I suppose, in the Buddhist point of view, everybody is suffering mentally until they become aware and overcome that mental suffering. So I thought that was quite nice to think along them terms. So we shared many stories of movement that saved people from their bleak outlook on life, especially when they are dealing with various illnesses. And so this woman with the stroke, that was one, but we had other instances where we shared how people was able to use movement, help with them mentally. And they go hand in hand in a lot of ways. And quite often what we think about, if we think about stressful things, our body reflects that, and we come out, or we break out in, we can break out in rashes, or we can suffer physically from our mental state. So this is a well-known physical thing. So we're going to lead into our first song now, which is To Seek and Find Our Natural Mind. Which you'll find on the screen. Get a mouse to work. So I'm now going to read a poem. This is Walk With Me by Thich Nhat Hanh. You low, you lay, our sweetest master for whom we pray, who carries us to Zen, as fall is upon us all again. You are pristine, holy, and filled with intense love and peace, gliding like the wind beneath the soul heading east. Only you can hold your profound, powerful energy, your inner bliss. And as you lay recovering, I send you this kiss. You walked with me when I suffered and I did not say a word, but knowingly propelled my own inner bird to sing again, to breathe again, to feel the fresh air, to smile through the pain, remembering to care, to turn my face upon the rain, to taste her sweet nectar, to speak to the plants, to know, to deeply look within, to love, to honour and to grow. The cells in you so healthily grow. Your aura is golden, it radiates with heart. You say there's no start, no end, only to love and befriend. I walk with you today and send you my love. I see your light in everything around and up above. The leaves glow golden in the light. I send you peace, no need to fight. You are all right. Healing and recovering, breath by breath, as we walk with you today in confidence and togetherness. This poem speaks of encouragement and how we each shine when we connect with each other. This togetherness and this friendship helps our mind to overcome our physical struggles and fosters resilience to carry on and experience life in a positive mindset. So this leads us straight into our next song, which is Life is the Greatest Gift of All. So life is the greatest gift of all. So I just want to give you a quick quote now from Lao Tzu. Let movement go on, and the condition of rest will gradually arise. It's that's like the play of yin and yang. Really. Let movement go on, and the condition of rest will gradually arise. So if you keep moving, you eventually get tired. and your body will naturally want to rest. This is a natural state and a natural order of things. You move, you rest, you recuperate, and it starts all over again. So I quite like that short saying. So movement for mental health. Just want to give you a small story of my brother. He suffered from schizophrenia for most of his life, the biggest part of his life, until he passed away a few years ago in his 60s. So it's a long time to be suffering from a mental illness, and he went through many challenges, and towards the end he seemed to be more cognitive of the people around him, but there was always a struggle. And my memories of that when I was younger was quite scarred, really, from witnessing my brother go through such a trial. And there was moments that affected me greatly. So it wasn't just his mindset, it was the people around him, his family, friends, and the people connected to him. And so I was about 9 years old, my earliest memory of him struggling greatly. And around that time is when I myself started struggling with migraines, which I don't know what attributed to that specifically. It could have been stress, it could have been events that happened. We recently moved house, which is another big stress raiser for people. There's a few things, which is the most stressful thing in life. Moving, getting married, starting a new job. These just a few things. So I started with migraines and had to suffer with that for nearly 40 years. So it was a long time. And it got to a point where I tried all different kinds of medication, and it wasn't working. I'd suffered long enough, and I needed to get to the root cause of why this was happening. And I tried many different things. Movement was one of them, which started my road to mental well-being. But I struggled, and it only really came to light when one day I was walking the dog, and I got home, and I couldn't remember 1 minute of that walk. And I thought, wow, what just happened there? And this is not just an isolated incident, and everybody can relate to this. You drive to a destination, you think, I don't really remember that journey at all. Or you walk into a room and you think, what have I come here for now? Yeah. Now we quite often put that down to, maybe I'm going a bit senile, maybe it's, we put it down to something or other, but, our mind goes from one thought to another, and it becomes too much, it gets stressed, and we get series of blanks, which we find hard to remember. So this walking my dog and not being able to remember a minute of that walk caused me to think, right, I need to do something about this. So the next time I went for a walk, I looked at the colours of the plants. I listened out to the birds, the people, the traffic, and I thought, how far can I hear, things happening? And really took everything in as I walked. And then I remembered everything about that walk. It became more vibrant and more peaceful because I was focused on the present moment, on what I was doing. So that was a big revelation to me before I then went on to exploring different ways of doing this. So movement is important in everyday life. Taoists believe that movement is an essential part of the mind-body balance and the answer to a long life. This is done by moving energy, which they call qi. And we move that throughout the body. allowing the chi to move freely, removing blockages, storing it in our lower dantian for when we need it. This philosophy is thousands of years old and has helped many practitioners to lead a better and healthier way of living, with the aim of living longer and better lives. So this is nothing new. This is something that has been known for thousands of years. And so, there's tools there that we can use and take advantage of to help us when we are suffering. Although we don't always realize when we are suffering until the body really starts to complain in one way or another. So in ancient India, 1500 to 500 BC, they founded the chakra system. Now, I don't know if you know anything about the chakra system. As you can, or you maybe see on screen here, we have 7 points throughout the body, starting at the lowest, which is red, which is a root chakra, which is related to physical things. Out of the physical, they're rooted to the earth, and all things manifest from that, and everything grows from the earth. Next, we have the sacral chakra, which is represented in orange, and that's related to water and the flow of life. Then we have the solar plexus, which you see in yellow, moving up to the heart in green, of love and compassion. And we move up to the throat, where we have expression. And then the third eye, which is indigo in this instance, which is all about connection and awakening. And then we go to the crown chakra, which is all about guidance. So this is a energy system in which we can use mindfully to unblock our energy that may get stuck in some stages. And we can do this mentally. The Chinese, on the other hand, they have found various places in the body which where the blood flows and can get stuck or have blockages in something. So it's still all energy that's flowing through the body. So they have a system of acupuncture. And as part of one of the things I explored, I had acupuncture. And for the first time, I found that quite scary, to be honest. So I laid on this table, they took small needles, and I went with a headache. So I'm thinking, where are they going to stick these needles? I was quite curious. So they stuck needles in between my toes, and they slowly worked their way up the body, and in between my hand there, and up, and on the top of my head. And when they approached me with a needle to stick on the top of my head, I thought, whoa, that's not going to be good. But that's what they did. And they said, I'm going to leave you there now for a little while, and you can just relax. And I'm thinking, how can I relax with loads of needles stuck in me? And if I move, are they going to make it worse? I found it a little stressful, but eventually I did. I relaxed. And I didn't doze off because, loads of needles. And eventually the woman come back and said, took all the needles out, and I thought, oh, goodness. And she says, now, don't do anything energetic, just go home, relax. And I realized that I parked a long way away, so I had to walk to my car, and I had to mindfully will my body to move because it didn't want to, because it was relaxed. So I had to move each leg. And eventually, when I got to the car, I think I had undone most of that therapy. But there you go. It was so I had a series of acupuncture. So that was interesting. But it didn't resolve this particular issue, although many people it does. And one of the other things I found was acupressure. So for migraine, there's different places behind the head and on the hand where you can help with headaches. So I used that helped. anything that was to bring me even a moment relief was I was holding on to and using at this point. So I eventually found Tai Chi. So this is slow movement where we combine the breath, the movement, and the mind together. It's just like the yin and the yang is external, internal. It's that combination which we find in harmony, which helps our health. And so energy is something that is always present. It's not something we just accumulate out of nothing. It is always there. We bring it together. An example of this may be how, if we take water for instance, in the winter it is solidified and it's made into ice, so it's solid. So it's a solid state. As the sun comes onto the ice, it starts to melt, so then we've got water. So it's changed form now from ice to solid to a fluid, liquid. And then as the sun continues to shine, it then evaporates, so it's in the air, so it comes as steam. And eventually we don't see it. It just rises and rises until it gets into clouds. And then it forms droplets until it gets heavy again, and it falls like rain down to the earth where it forms as water. And as winter comes, back to a solid state again. So energy is always being transformed. And that's how I like to think of the yin and the yang in the systems. So after I had my operation on my knee to have the cartilage removed, I needed to build strength in my muscles to help support the knee and help it heal fully. I started practicing Tai Chi and Qigong exercises to help with the pain, and I found it really helped a lot. Not only with the muscles around my joints, it also helped to settle my mind, as all physical ailments can have a detrimental effect on our mental well-being. And that's what was happening with me. Of course, I could not run around anymore, and I struggled to walk. Walking the dog became a challenge, and it does affect you mentally. It was frustrating for me because I was always physical, always moving, always doing some kind of sport. So I had to stop that. So that was a very big frustration. I heard many stories of people suffering from bad backs and other ailments who also found the benefits worthwhile of Tai Chi, which encouraged me to continue the practice on a regular basis. Slow, conscious movement uses a mindfulness technique which helps us bring calm to the mind as you focus on the movement. Just like a meditative state, your mind is present and free from unsolicited thoughts. They call Tai Chi an inner martial art, and it is slow, purposeful movement are based on some of the martial arts fighting forms and the study of nature. The play of push, pull, up, down, right and left is a representation of the balance denoted in the yin and yang symbol, as you might see on the screen. Where there is balance, there is harmony. And you start to flow with a life force within you, which brings healing to both body and mind. So one of the other practices I do is I get a bow staff, which is like a big stick, and I slowly move that around. You might have seen it on Buddhist monks sometimes do it. They twiddle the stick around. I always like the thought of that, so I started doing it. And it is a very good instant feedback for when your mind isn't on, in focus in the present moment. So as you're moving that and you get faster and faster, if your mind is not on what you're doing, you get a sharp knock on the head or on the leg or somewhere where you really don't want it. And that it was a good instant recognition of when my mind was not fully on what I was doing. So I like to practice this on a regular basis as part of my Tai Chi and bow staff movements. So I do recommend it, but you do have to be careful when you're using other things. Being in connection with tools or with nature or with whatever you're doing is important. Our state of mind affects our well-being in mentally and physically. So I can, to help you realize this, and you might relate to this more, is, like a sportsman or when you're doing anything, moving, it could be washing the dishes, and you're just in that moment, you're not really focused on what you're doing. So how about this when playing sports? I've got the ball and I'm moving with the ball and I pass it, and all these movements are instinctive, it's subconscious. I'm not having to think about how I move, how I hit the ball or pass the ball. It just happens, and I'm just focused on the bigger picture of the game. And the ball goes exactly where it needs to go, without even thinking about it. That's when you're in the moment. It's a bit like driving. When you're going down the road, you're not thinking about, well, I need to get the gear stick, I need to move it, get it into this gear, I need to move the steering wheel like this, or indicate like that. Everything becomes instinctive, and your focus is all on the road and on the present moment, what you are doing right now. So it's called being in the moment, and it helps you. It's like mentally standing back. Let the body do what it's doing, and you're just carried along with it, witnessing what it's doing. And when you can do that, everything seems to flows a lot better. And this is when people who do things instinctively, creatively, that's the flow state they're in. The mind is more on the creativity and less on the doing. It is ultimately a connection of physical doing and mindful being, and together you create something beautiful. Living in the past or the future only gives us dis-ease. That's why it is important to live in the present moment. Whether we are washing the dishes or waiting in a queue or doing any task, doing it mindfully, I think, is a key. So if you are washing the car because you need to get to somewhere else, you're not really washing the car. You're doing something very quickly just so you can get somewhere in the future. So mindfully doing a task makes you present, and it's like a refreshment for the mind, and then you can go on to your next thing and be fully present in the next thing you do. This seems like an obvious thing, but it is something that in this day and age we get our practice from. We're always wanting to move to the next thing. So doing things nice and not necessarily slowly but mindfully is key, or something that I have managed to take on board to help me. And through these activities, and I've managed to overcome the migraines a few years back. So I broke that near 40-year cycle through all these practices. I don't think I could have gone on any further. I would have had to stay on medication, and that just felt wrong for me. I didn't feel myself anymore. So we live in a world where people seek distraction and neglect themselves, not knowing how to deal with the heart and body, mind, without taking some kind of drug. Medication does help us, but quite often the cure for healing, the root cause of our illness, doesn't always come in the shape of a pill, but in the connection with the world and each other. So this takes us into our next hymn. Come and find the quiet centre. So we come to the end of the service. We may all have our ups and downs. We may remember that there's always a way to seek help, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Together we can resolve these periods of uncalm and find a hope once again. In our mindful movements, or mindful moments, in every moment, and in our heartfelt desire for a better world as we go in peace. Somebody could just extinguish the chalice. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.